Right. It's up to you though. If y'all feel comfortable moving forward with the call to order and recognition, we can start whenever y'all are ready.
This November meeting, Wednesday, November the 1st, meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals is now called to order. So with that, I want to recognize that we do have a quorum today, and I'm going to go ahead with the public notice announcement. In accordance with the Freedom of Information Act, a copy of the agenda was sent to radio and television stations, newspapers, persons requesting notification, and posted on the bulletin board located in the county administration office. At this time, I will present the rules of order. The Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-court. It will take evidence that's presented, and it will hopefully render a decision today for each case. The way that the mechanics of this works is that the applicant will be allotted up to 15 minutes to present their case. Anyone that is signed up in opposition will be granted up to 3 minutes each to present their opposition. And then the applicant, if necessary, will be allotted up to 5 minutes of rebuttal. The board can extend those times at its discretion as needed. The board may have questions for the applicant and also potentially for anyone signed up to speak. The agenda is ordered by the board as the board requires to conduct business. Usually the cases are ordered based on the filing date. Some cases may take longer than other cases, depending on the complexity of the case, the issues at hand, number of witnesses, etc. When you are called to testify, address your remarks to the board. No exchanges between the speaker and the audience. Please, no audience demonstrations or testimonies other than those from the podium. You are under oath and are being recorded, so please don't promise to do something that you're not prepared to do. Don't fail to say something that's material to what you do intend to do. And please speak into the microphone. In terms of evidence presented, this is not as formal as court. We will accept documents that you've submitted, including any kind of last-minute submissions that you may bring today or those you submit, and those items you submit will be weighed appropriately. Cases can either be approved, denied, or they can be granted a conditional decision based on meeting certain conditions. The decisions are final when the minutes are approved, which is typically 1 month from the meeting or at the next scheduled meeting. If you take any action before the decision is final, you proceed at your own risk. Any person who may have a substantial interest in the decision rendered by the board today may request a reconsideration of this decision prior to the approval of the minutes. This reconsideration request must be based on a specific error made by the board. And if you have an issue, you may obtain more information about this process from Mr. Price, the zoning administrator. Once the request for reconsideration has been exhausted by any person with a substantial interest in a decision of the board, you may appeal to the circuit court, and those appeals must be filed within 30 days after the decision of the board has been mailed, and that does not occur until after the minutes have been approved. If you are unhappy with the board's decision today, please follow the reconsideration and appeal process. Please don't voice your displeasure if you're frustrated with the board. A few housekeeping items. Please silence or turn off all cell phones or pagers. Please make sure that your name is on the sign-in sheet for each case. If you need to come and go, please do so quietly as needed. The board may have an occasion to enter into executive session or recess. Anyone that is planning to provide testimony today, please rise to be sworn in. But please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. With that completed, that's the public notice announcement completed. We'll move to item 3 on the agenda, which is the addition or deletion to the agenda. Is there anything that needed to be deleted or added to the agenda?
No, sir.
Mr. Chair, I, Chasea Hendricks, co-chair, would like to move a motion that we accept the agenda as outlined with the addition of adding to accept the minutes from our August 9th, 2023 meeting and September 6th, 2023.
So it has been moved that we accept the agenda with the addition of adding the approval of the minutes from the August 9th meeting and the August 9th, 2023 meeting and the September 6th, 2023 meeting. Any question? We are ready for a vote.
Those in favor, Reese, I'm sorry, let me start that over, because this is different. Those in favor, Robert Reese,
That's A.
Hendricks,
A.
Fulmer. Yes. Deontay Reese. Yes. Lotzenheiser,
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
So with that vote, the agenda has been adopted with the addition of approving the minutes from the last 2 meetings. And this is some guidance. Do we need to accept the minutes independently, or can we accept both of the minutes at the same time? And I guess we should do it independently, because there may be some corrections to one and may not be corrections to the other.
I mean, I would say normally that would be the case, but I mean, again, if there were someone who wanted to separate those as a board because you felt that you needed to discuss them. I'm sorry, something you felt needed to be discussed, but I think your actions now will be fine. I think going forward may be best to separate them.
Let's just do a separate vote. So we'll look first at the August 9th meeting, and we have the minutes. We've had those minutes before us. And so is there a motion to accept those minutes, or is there corrections that need to be made to the minutes?
Motion that we accept the August 9th minutes?
I second.
So it has been moved and properly second that we accept the minutes for the August 9th Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. Call for a question. Now we're ready for the vote.
All right, those in favor of the acceptance of the approval of the August 9th minutes, 2023. Robert Reese,
A.
Hendricks.
A.
Fulmer. Yes. Deontay Reese,
Yes.
Lotzenheiser.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
So the minutes from the August 9th, 2023 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting has been approved. And so now we will move to the September 6th, 2023 minutes. Can I get a motion to accept, or is there corrections to those minutes?
Motion to accept, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly accepted that it has been moved and properly second that we accept the minutes from the September 6, 2023 meeting. Question, call for the question. Hearing none, then we will call for the vote.
All right, those in favor of the approval of the September 6, 2023 minutes, Robert Reese,
A.
Hendricks,
A.
Fulmer, Deontay Reese, Lustenheiser,
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes.
All right, moving on to item 5 on this agenda is the rules of order. And the rules of order were actually a part of the public notice announcement. So you've gotten those rules of order. So we are actually ready for the public hearing. And so we'll ask the zoning administrator, Mr. Geo Price, if he's ready to present for case 1.
Yes, sir. All right, our first item is case SE 22-002. The applicant is Adrian Williams. The location of the request is 2204 East Boundary Road in Columbia, South Carolina. Located at 2204 East Boundary Road. The applicant is requesting a special exception to permit the establishment of a place of worship on a parcel zone residential single-family medium density, also known as RS-MD. The parcel is about a little more than an acre in area. The parcel currently has an existing 1,246 square foot structure, which serves as a place of worship. The applicants are proposing to establish a 2,222 square foot place of worship. The area is comprised primarily of residentially developed parcels, and there's some large undeveloped parcels as you look further out. Again, one of the things to point out, the existing vegetation will buffer the development from adjacent parcels and roadways. Staff didn't really observe any factors that would negatively impact the properties in the area. As a note, the applicant, if approved, will be required to obtain a driveway permit from South Carolina Department of Transportation. And that would address the appropriateness of any access points, just in case there's some necessary changes. And also, as part of the review for the construction of a new church, they will have to submit plans in which will be reviewed from a planning, public works, fire marshal, soil and water for their reviews also. Based on staff's review of the case, and again, we're just based on information submitted and what we've observed, staff recommends approval of this request.
The applicant here.
No, but I speak for the
If you would you come to the podium?
We're going to ask, sir, once you approach the podium, that you give us your full name, address for the record.
My name is Kenneth Allen Whitted. I am the architect on the project. And I reside at 1330 Lady Street, Suite 500. So the church has been in church for the past 20 years, and they're trying to improve the site. Right now, currently, they don't have enough space, and so what we're proposing is to grow the church or put a new church there. They didn't know that it was not zoned properly for what they were trying to do, and so that's why we're trying to rectify the situation.
I'm sorry, just for clarity, just make sure, the property is zoned properly. with his single-family designation. It's just that within that zoning designation, it's been determined that a special exception is required prior to the establishment of that use.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. So, based on the list that we have, we don't have anybody signed up to speak in opposition for this zoning, for the zoning request. So then, are there any questions from members of this panel, this board, about this particular zoning request? Barring no questions, then I'm gonna ask if there is a motion for approval or denial or reconsideration.
Mr. Chair, I move a motion that we accept.
Second?
Mr. Chair and Board, so one of the things I would recommend, we run into cases like this, which is pretty simple, is that you would reference that, you're, based on your review of the criteria for special exception, which you'll find on page 1, and also the additional standards that are applied for a special exception for a place of worship. If you would, you could just state that those have either been met or you have found that there would be no impact based on those criteria also.
Mr. Chair, we move a motion to accept the special exception based off staff's recommendation under the standards of subsection 26-152 D20, and they all have been met in reference to page 1. Staff recommends approval, and the board does as well.
So there was a revised motion.
Second.
So it has been moved and properly accepted and properly second that we accept staff recommendation. Any question? Barring no question, we're ready for the vote.
All right, those in favor of the approval of case 22, SE 22-002. Nelson,
Yes.
Lussenheiser,
Yes.
Deontay Reese,
Yes.
Fulmer,
Yes.
Hendricks,
Yes.
Robert Reese.
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
So that takes us to our second case.
Yes, sir.
Price, if you would.
All right, the next item is case SC 23-003. The applicant is requesting the Board of Zoning Appeals to grant a special exception for the establishment of a bar and drinking establishment on property zone neighborhood commercial, also known as the NC zoning designation. The applicant is Natasha A. Jones. The location on the parcel is 1041 McCord's Ferry Road, Columbia, South Carolina. Maybe actually Lugoff. It's actually Lugoff, South Carolina. The parcel size is about an acre. As we have, the parcel currently contains a 1,270 square foot commercial building. Again, the applicant is requesting to establish that structure for a bar and drinking establishment. The general area consists primarily of large tracts of single-family detached developments, parcels, and undeveloped parcels. Again, just based on, staff's review of the application submitted and the criteria, those can be met. So we didn't see anything that would negatively impact the property surrounded by this development. However, per subsection 26-152 D2F of the Richland County Land Development Code, the applicant is required to erect a privacy fence along the eastern and southern property lines of the parcel to provide a buffer between the subject site and the adjacently residentially developed parcel properties. Again, for this case, even though there's an existing building, there will be a site plan submitted in which we would have to look at, location, parking and any required improvements to the property. More than likely, it won't require full engineering plans on this, but it may require building and zoning review. Okay, and again, for these reasons, staff recommends approval.
All right, so I do have a question. So the allowable uses for this is rural commercial, general commercial, M1, and LI light industrial. And this is currently zoned in an NC, neighborhood commercial. Can you just give me some synopsis of the difference between that neighborhood commercial and the other commercial?
Yes, sir. Just give me one moment, please. Okay. So, there's a typo, and I'll explain that. Under the standards, for a special exception, under the bars and drinking establishments, it does list the use districts as just rural commercial, general commercial, and both of our light industrial districts, which would be M1 and LI. However, there's a typo there, because within our matrix of uses found within our code, bars and drinking places are allowed by special exceptions in the OI zoning designation, which is office and institutional, and also within the neighborhood commercial designation as a special exception. So it was kind of, something got flipped. And so the districts in which they're allowed by special requirements, which would essentially some of the same standards, the difference is it doesn't have to come to the board, were labeled under the standards when they should. We just missed the zoning designations, but the use is allowed by special exception under the neighborhood commercial.
Is the applicant here? Is the applicant here?
Yes, sir.
Then you have 15 minutes to present your case. And if you would, you can join us here.
Yes, ma'am, if you would be so kind to be sure to state your name and address for the record.
My name is Natasha Jones, and I reside at 403 Misty Knoll Drive in Elgin, South Carolina. I'm looking to get the exception approved for the neighborhood commercial. We're located off of 601 McCords Ferry Road, which is a main intersection, so it wouldn't cause any kind of traffic inflection or anything that would cause any kind of disruption in the service. We're currently already engaged within the community out there, and they're actually building a housing development about a mile down the road. So just looking to bring that together to provide a safe environment for any adult drinking that would occur down there. We also, based off of the property, there is about 3 to 5 acres before you'll actually get to any kind of residential property, so we wouldn't cause any disruption into the community that already lives out there. So honestly, that's just where we're just looking to get the exception approved. We were unaware of it being on a neighborhood commercial property. We've been there for a year, so.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Are you currently operating an establishment at this location?
We're closed. We have all the licenses outside of the business license through the city that we were unaware of, but ever since the gentleman came down, I want to say John is his name. Ever since he came down, we've been closed since then. So we've been closed for about 3 months now.
So are you aware of any previous establishment or business that's been at this location?
I'm aware, I was never there, but yes, sir, we've been told that it's been a bar for years on top of years prior to us even getting the facility.
Yes, sir. Okay, to the surprise of staff, we also, I think when she came in and we actually took a look at this location, we kind of noticed the advertisement and the signage on there. If I'm correct, there is no business license of record for Bombay at this location. I do know when this property was rezoned some years ago, it was for the establishment, I think, motorcycle repairs. Is that right, Mr. Delaney? For motorcycle repair. And so that's what it was originally approved. I couldn't tell you what has happened between when the motorcycle repair was established and when that evidently closed and this was established. But I guess in a nutshell, any bar activity that might have taken place on this site would have essentially been illegal. We just weren't aware of it.
Have any questions for?
Mr. Chair, I have a little concern, so I have to ask this question. It speaks of adequate off-street parking, and when we say adequate, I am assuming that means the number of spaces. Being a little bit familiar with 601, there's a lot of traffic as it relates to 18-wheelers. I'm concerned. Close to the road or bar? I mean, I don't know, what is considered adequate? What is considered adequate off road?
So one of the things one of the things that we look at prior to bringing any case before you, especially special exceptions, is again, we do go down the criteria to ensure that each one of those can be met. Per the Land Development Code, if those criteria can't be met, the board can't grant approval. So when we're talking about the bar and drinking establishment, and we're looking primarily at items D, where it says they have to provide an off-street parking at a rate of 12 spaces for each 1,000 square feet of gross floor area. So one of the things that we have the applicant do, and you will note it on page 13 of your packet, where they were have to show us that they can meet those parking spaces. And so they were able to provide that, and they did draw this to scale for us. And so we find that there's adequate area for them to have the required parking spaces as far as number, and also to meet our other requirements, such as the ability to back up from the space and not be in the road, which is prohibited by our code. You cannot back into the road. So we found that on the property, there was adequate room for parking and for maneuverability to get in and out.
Any additional questions for the applicant? Any additional comments?
No, sir.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Philip Brown, when you come to the podium, please give us your name once again and your address.
Philip Brown, I live at 420 Northeast Shady Grove Road. I bought that property in '86, so I've had property there for 37 years. I didn't even know how it was zoned until yesterday when I called in here and found it was neighborhood commercial. Well, our neighborhood is all residential other than that one building, which was a motorcycle repair shop, and had no problem with them. Over the years, I had problems with these illegal businesses that have been there that the county didn't catch them or shut them down. At least 2 different ones before the motorcycle shop. I haven't, I've been in and talked to these people, and they're nice, but the thing that I've had trouble with is people go to a bar to drink, and they don't drink a beer and go home. They'll sit there till they get inebriated and they can't drive home, or they could drive home and kill somebody. And there have people been down there that got drunk and had to call a neighbor to drive them home because they couldn't get a taxi out there. So we don't need alcohol and drunks on the highway. People get killed going down the wrong side of the road. Wrecks are caused. Nothing wrong with the place and parking. It's just that what alcohol does to people. I don't ever hear of anything good happening at a bar. And they'll have to check the door to make people aren't carrying weapons with them. Because when somebody gets drunk and got a weapon, you got a problem. On my street, right in front of my house, somebody came out, and I happened to be off the curb, maybe 50 feet. I could see him. He ran off the road into the ditch, and he was going so fast, he brought it back on the road and didn't turn over. And then another time, a young fella cut down about 6 trees, about 4 to 6 inches in diameter, turned over and landed in my field. So, and I pick up a lot of trash because people throw out stuff. So we don't need a bar in my neighborhood because we're rural. What is it called? Commercial?
Residential?
What is it called?
Residential?
Yeah, commercial, residential, whatever. That's all I've got.
Excuse me, look at the map, which one is yours, which property?
Well, if you go up 601 beyond that square, my land's there. If you go down 601 below where you're looking, my land's there. If you go up Shady Grove Road, beyond that last square, I go all the way to Screaming Eagle. I've got almost 1,200 acres there. And I've been there for years, and it's been very peaceful.
Good. Mr. Fulmer, maybe to help answer your question, where is your residence located?
Move on down Shady Grove Road.
If you would give us the
Well,
address.
do
we can
you
pull
see
it up.
that big pond right there? On the left? No, go down, that's a dirt road you're going down. Go back toward the west. Yeah, keep going. That's mine right there. And see, my land's in Kershaw and Richland, about 600 acres in each county. And I've got some on the dirt road.
Mr. Brown,
You see where your white sign is? That big piece there is 25 acres I own on the dirt road about 100 feet from this place.
thank you, Mr. Brown, for your testimony. Franklin Williams. State your name, sir, and address as well.
My name is Franklin Williams. My address is 919 Berry Road, Bishopville, South Carolina. I will be moving on this side of town soon, but I've did a lot of the work out there, and I met a lot of the neighbors out there, and I feel like what Natasha's trying to do wouldn't impact the neighborhood, or what it wouldn't cause any litter, or I mean, it's a bar. Everybody have a right to own their own business and provide for themselves. And being there, working there for a year, building everything and landscaping and everything, we never had any problems out there. And most of the locals came out. They had a good time. So I think opening this will be something positive for their neighborhood as well as our neighborhood the kids in the community. She always does community events for her kids every holiday, and I think if she can get past this stepping stone, she can do what she want to do with her goals in life versus having a debate about anybody's property, being close to anybody's property. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions? Mr. Bill Brown, please come forward and state your name and address, sir, for the record.
My name is Bill Brown. I live at 429 Northeast Shady Grove Road, Lugoff, South Carolina. A couple concerns that I have, and one of them was stated earlier, is the fact that being that we're in close proximity to the Richland County, Kershaw County line, what has happened in the past is the establishment has fallen under the radar. Because there has been, I think as Philip stated, illegal businesses there that served alcohol. I can remember when it was called Buck's Place. So there was a lot of drinking, a lot of drinking and driving, especially down Northeast Shady Grove, because people would take that road to cut through from 601 to Screaming Eagle. And as Philip stated, he owns the majority of the property along that road, so it's very rural. And a lot of times, we move farm equipment back and forth across Northeast Shady Grove. I've got some livestock that's on Philip's property. I have grandkids who, play along, the property and that kind of thing. And, we're moving back and forth across Shady Grove. So speaking from my experience with past businesses who have operated illegally, it's not been a good experience. I'm all for bringing community together. That's a good thing. My thing is when you get alcohol involved, I can't be responsible for what you might do. So, it's legal in our society to drink. The problem is when you get in a vehicle. And I've lost loved ones to drinking and driving, so I'm speaking from experience in that aspect. So, being as I, help Philip a lot of times with caretaking his property, we're of no relation, by the way. We just happen to have the same last name. But so that's kind of my concern is the fact that, the drinking, driving, so to speak, and being as, me and my wife reside there and we have grandkids. My parents live, in close proximity to where I do along Northeast. They're aging, so it's just, I think it's a recipe for disaster. So, thank you.
Mr. Brown, I have a question, and if this is not one in which you can answer, maybe Mr. Brown, who spoke before you, might have an opportunity to come. But are you aware or do you have knowledge of any vehicle or pedestrian safety issues that were directly tied to this facility in its prior use? So were there any accidents or any wrecks or anything at it? And I know that the prior use might have been illegal, but are you aware of any vehicular or pedestrian safety issues that occurred because of the use of that facility, specifically? Not just on 601 in general,
Yes.
but specifically.
Yes. One night, this was prior to me moving on Northeast. I was actually living on 601 at the time. But one night, me and my wife were coming home, and Buck's Place was in operation. It was probably midnight. It was around Christmas, probably around early 2000s. But there was a vehicle that had run off of the road in the ditch is a power line that crosses northeast, but they were right there in that ditch. And there was another truck that had a chain stretched across northeast trying to pull the vehicle out. So I stopped, of course, and everyone was okay and, you know, very inebriated. And they asked if I could help, and my help was to call Highway Patrol, which they had gotten out and gone, you know, prior to Highway Patrol coming. But, and for me, one incident is enough, because, you know, had I been coming down that road earlier, things could have been a lot different. So, you know, that's my concern.
Appreciate the comment.
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Rusty Tucker. I hope I'm not mispronouncing your last name. Is it Tucker? Okay. Can you give us your name, sir, and your address for the record?
Rusty Tucker, 150 Northeast Shady Grove Road, Lugoff. I have resided at that address for 55 years, basically. Born and raised there. I've seen all the bars come and go. When it was originally built, it was a grocery store. After they kind of folded, it kind of turned into a, I guess, illegal bar. But there's been more problems in that area, traffic-wise and everything else, whenever there was a bar affiliated down there. I have seen multiple accidents on Northeast Shady Grove Road. There's been, I know, several close calls. I don't know if y'all familiar with the area or not, but there's a big steep hill coming down 601. And them truckers are running about 75, 80 when they come down that hill. All it takes is one car to pull out of a bar inebriated, and you're gonna. It's happened before. It'll happen again. I mean, we got grandkids, kids. We just don't need that in our community.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Does the board have any questions? Okay, thank you, sir. Oh, sorry.
I've got a question. I'm not sure, Mr. Tucker, that you're going to be able to answer.
All right.
But you brought this up to say you've been there all your life.
Yes, sir.
There have been a number of illegally operated.
I didn't realize at the time that they were illegal, but if it was illegal to have a bar, there has been, I know, 2 different ones.
Mr. Rick Weems, please come forward, sir. State your name and address for the record.
My name is Rick Weems. I live at 476 Northeast Shady Grove Road, Lugoff. I've lived there my whole life, too. I'm probably the closest house to the bar, so I hear the most.
Can you share with us where you're located so we can just reference that on this map?
Y'all able to plug in his address for us?
Across 601. There you go. Probably a football field, 100 yards. But I'm worried about the noise. I like to open my windows, sleep at night when it was a bar. I foolishly went over there a few times and run the people out the parking lot so I get me a good night's sleep. Managed to come home in one piece. But I'd much rather see a store or something, or even a church come in, something bring the neighborhood together. Thank you.
Before we go to the next, Mr. Price, can you
Thank you.
Can you help me to identify where the county line is?
Yes, sir. Do you see the shading, how the shading kind of changes, I guess, along? So the darker shade that you see would be Rudolph, would change from the county line. Everything south of it would be within Richland County.
So even though Mr. Leans has a Rudolph address, he's actually in Richland County.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to get my bearings.
Mr. Chair, that's all of our witnesses for this case.
So if that's all of the witnesses that are in opposition, then our applicant has an opportunity to come back and to provide just some follow-up or just additional information if you so choose. All right.
So just a couple things that I want to speak on about what has been said. So obviously, I'm not trying to run an illegal operation. I have my license through the Department of Revenue. I have a retail license. This is the city license is the only license that I do not have. I was not aware that it was needed until they did come down. So the right thing to do was to close. So I'm following the legal steps going through this hearing. I also have already gone through the tips class, so I understand that any bartender that I am to employ, when they are to cut off any kind of drinking, to ensure that there is nobody that does leave the property that is intoxicated, not able to drive. We've met with SLED, John Kirkland, and outside of this job, I work for Walmart as a store manager, and so I have really close connections with a lot of Richland County sheriff officers, and I've already talked to them about just if I needed them in the presence that they wouldn't mind coming down, no different than what John Kirkland has also informed us that he would provide the classes for all of bartenders that were hired, just to ensure that they're doing the right thing as well. No illegal activity has happened since I've been there. I've only had the property for about a year now, well, a little over a year. So like I said, anything that happened prior to that, I was not aware. I'm not from South Carolina. I live in Elgin. So I would ensure that anybody that is underneath my responsibility, it's my facility, we would all follow legal procedures that we would need to ensure the safety of anybody. No different than I have children. I'm pregnant. I wouldn't want anything to happen to my children as well. So I completely understand the concerns, but we would also hire security in the need of the weapons. We've already been through that process as well, talking to the SLED department as well.
So, Ms. Jones, I got two questions for you.
Yes, sir.
One is, you're the current owner of the facility and have been operating the facility prior to your realizing that there was an additional requirement.
Yes, sir.
And so as soon as you realized that, then you ceased operations and then really started to go through the process to make sure you got this thing right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to make sure that first. The second thing is, and this is for my own just peace of mind. Have you heard anything over on this side that gives you, that is an eyebrow raiser or somewhat gives you an indication that there might be some consideration for additional requirements as a business owner? And this is just for me, so have you heard anything today that says eyebrow raiser like, I might need to consider this, or I might need to...
No, sir. The only concern that I have is that when I initially applied for my business license through the Department of Revenue, we went through a newspaper ad that requires 30 days for anybody to come in and do basically what we're doing today, to object to us opening up a bar, and nothing had came from it. So this is the first time that I'm hearing any kind of concerns in regards to this. I'm well aware of if we have noise, what that would look like. I have speakers in the ceiling that you can hear yourself talk inside the establishment with the music as loud as it can get as well. So the music, the noise is not an issue. Parking is not an issue. We have additional parking in the back as well, to the point of if they had to circle around so nobody would back into the major highway. So absolutely nothing is a major concern that I would think I need to do anything different.
Ms. Jones, I'm aware of the city ordinance as far as time, but could you just state for the record your hours of operation and your days?
Well, I don't have nothing concrete. When we were operating, we were opening at 5 p.m. and closing at 2 a.m. And then it was actually just Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday.
Thank you.
So are there any additional questions from this board? Ms. Jones, I'm sorry. Ms. Jones, we thank you, and you can be seated.
Thank you.
So we have heard testimony from the applicant. We've heard testimony from those in opposition. Is there a motion from the board?
I'll make the motion that we consider the recommendation for approval.
Mr. Chair, I would like to amend that motion with us considering staff approval under the per subsection of 26-152D2F, making sure that the applicant is aware and required to erect a privacy fence along the eastern and southern property lines of the parcel to provide a buffer between the subject site and the adjacent residentially developed properties. Also, with us granting that approval, it stands to be reviewed by Richland County Divisions of Planning, Engineering, Building, and Fire Marshal.
Got a motion on the floor.
Second.
So it has been moved and second for approval based on the special considerations that were outlined in that motion.
Point of order on that fence, is that the permit department defines how big the fence is?
Oh, yes, it's a privacy fence, so it's gonna be at least 6 feet in height.
But that's permitting, does it?
Yes, so what happened is before, that is part of the development of the site, process. So before we were given the approvals, that would need to be in place.
Any additional questions or concerns? Properly second, we're ready for the vote.
Yeah. So, one of the things, before you vote, if you don't mind, I think I've had this conversation with everyone here, because, a lot of you are relatively new, to the board and the whole process. So one of the things that the board always has the options of doing as part of your approval is put additional stipulations on a request. So if there are any things that, you may have heard, so for example, again, I'm not necessarily recommending anything, I'm just pointing out. So, hearing the concerns of the community, hearing from the applicant, do you limit the hours of operation, established based on what was said? Is that one of your criteria? Outdoor venue, is there, do you put any stipulations on that? So there are things that you can always impose if you find they should be addressed, but if not, you can always still continue to go with your motion for approval, and it will just, operate, as any other business would.
It's a good question. How, what are the ordinances for noise in the county?
There are ordinances regarding noise, based on certain hours of the, when noise is taking place. But that is enforced by the Richland County Sheriff's Department, and is not necessarily something from a planning side. It's just like, for example, you could have a construction site taking place in the morning, and they're allowed to go to a certain level, but after a certain hour, that noise decibel level should go down. But those are not enforced from the zoning side of it. It's enforced through the Sheriff's Department.
Barring any other discussion, we've got a motion and a second on the floor. And so we are ready for a vote.
All right, those in favor of the motion for approval of case SC 23-003. Those in favor, Deontay Reese? Fulmer? Lawson-Heiser?
No.
Nelson? Hendricks?
Yes.
Robert Reese?
No.
All right, the motion passes 5-2.
So we are at the point in the agenda where we are at item number 7, and it is any other business on the agenda. Is there any other business to be considered? If none, then I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Nobody wants to give a second. It's a motion, it's been moved and properly seconded that we adjourn all of the, we're ready for a vote,
We
I
have a
guess.
second?
We have a second. All right.
Those in favor of adjournment, Robert Reese?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Fulmer?
Yes.
Deontay Reese? Yes. Lawson-Heiser?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
All right.
Meeting is adjourned.